Hey everybody, Craig Lieberman back at you again. This week we're talking about the 2024 GTR. I think many people went to the Tokyo Auto Salon this year hoping for a glimpse of the new R36 GTR. Nissan has been very tight-lipped about the R36 and has not, to my knowledge, publicly confirmed that there will ever even be an R36. So we're left in the dark mostly, right? So Nissan did not reveal an R36 at the Tokyo Auto Salon. Instead, they unveiled a 2024 GTR. I'll get to that in a minute right after this commercial break. I don't know if you know this, but I actually now have a merch store, and if you haven't checked out the video description below my videos, then you're missing out. Currently, I've got a pack full of movie quote t-shirts, and more styles are being added every month, and new items are in development right now. So have a look, see if there's anything you like, and wear it with pride. The link is in the video description below. So let's talk about what's been going on with the GTR for the last few years. Throughout 2021, there were rumors about the future of the GTR, like it was not coming back. Then Nissan released the T-Spec with a premium and track special edition. One was the M-Spec, I think it was called, and the other one was a T-Spec, and that was for 2022. But most notable about the 2022 GTR T-Spec were the exclusive exterior colors, the Millennium Jade and the Midnight Purple. But under the skin, it was still the same GTR that had been pushing since, God, for how many years now? With no bump in horsepower since around 2016. It's been 545 in the 2015 and then 565 in 2016. And many thought the release of these new two special editions were basically the swan song, like the final editions of the R35 GTR, which meant to most of us that the next GTR we're going to see is be the R36. That didn't happen. And so Nissan did not make any 2022 GTRs for the USA. They were carried over 2021. So the USA, again, like I said a minute ago, there was a T-Spec. And so when the GTR didn't come back for 22 as a new model, fans were left wondering if there was a future for the GTR at all. And then Nissan also stopped selling the GTR in Europe in 2022 because the venerable VR38 engine could not meet the stringent emission regulations and new noise regulations in those countries. So it would take them millions of dollars of development to fix all that stuff. So they said, well, forget it. We're just not going to sell there because sales are slow there anyway. But more recently, Nissan unveiled the 2023 GTR, which surprised many. And again, Nissan basically just added some refinements and not much more really. So again, the 2023 Nissan GTR was offered in two trims, the premium with the standard 565 horsepower that they had bumped up the year before, and the 600 horsepower GTR Nismo. The 2023 GTRs received some upgrades to the interior, mostly based on comfort and convenience and that kind of stuff to kind of make it a little more luxurious. However, the Nismo got bigger carbon ceramic rotors measuring 16.1 inches in the front and 15.3 inches out back. That's colossal. I think the price of the car is probably worth it just based on the brakes. Nissan says that the Nismo exclusive bodywork treatment helps provide increased component cooling while improving aerodynamic performance and downforce. The roof of the GTR Nismo is carbon fiber to help reduce weight and lower the center of gravity, which is always a good thing. And all of that was fine as refinements, I understand it and appreciate it, but it didn't really help boost the sales of the GTR significantly, at least not in the United States. But it was enough to keep the public's interest in the GTR and kind of suggested that Nissan has not given up on the platform. So that was a positive news, I guess you could say. But this week at the Tokyo Auto Salon, Hiroshi Tamura, brand ambassador for Nissan, unveiled the 2024 GTR. And I don't know what I was expecting, probably a segue into the R36, but that didn't happen. So once again, the updates feature some refinements. The T-Spec and the Millennium Jade and Midnight Purple editions are coming back, which is great. But again, it's just not a movement up. It's basically some refinement. Powertrain remains the same with 565 horsepower on both the premium and the T-Spec trim levels, and 600 ponies for the Nismo version will carry over as well. Fine and great, but again, it's not an R36. Are we ever going to get an R36? Power is still sent to all four wheels through the standard Atezza ETS all-wheel drive system that they've been using since the inception of the platform. Of course, it can vary its front-rear torque split depending on driver preferences and the driving scenario and the demands on the system. The GTR will now feature a front limited slip differential for the first time, which should be very interesting to see how tuners adapt with that and the longevity of that item when they turn up the boost. The T-Spec also receives the same carbon ceramic brakes from the Nismo model, which was fantastic. The Nismo still has the wider front fenders, the dynamic vehicle control, and a gold painted version of the raised 20-inch forged Nismo wheels. Yippee. We can powder coat that ourselves, thank you. It has unique T-Spec badging inside and out and comes with dark Mori green upholstery inside. Green. My least favorite color on the planet Earth. Stop that. The Nismo's wing grew by 10% and was moved forward, presumably to provide more downforce without more drag. The Nismo variant on the GTR gets the wider tires, the 6-piston front brake calipers, 4-piston in the rear, the usual stuff. And as I mentioned, the carbon ceramic brakes, front and rears. And of course, a host of other carbon accents around the inside the car. The Nismo team also redesigned the front lip, the rear diffuser, and the canards in an effort to increase downforce without hampering drag. There are lots of styling changes to both cars. In my view, the changes were subtle but definitely apparent. Now, of course, this is subjective, okay? Some people are going to really like it. Some people are going to like some parts. Some people are not going to like another part. So the 2024 Nismo goes another step further, channeling memories of, say, Battlestar Galactica for me. If you look at the back of the bumper and the fins that are coming off, or the strakes, the grills, the fans and everything, it looks like an old body kit that you would put on a replica of a Ferrari Testarossa. There's just too much of it from where it's too busy for me. It's not to my liking, but I know a lot of people say, yeah, that's the bomb, everything. So don't take my word for fact, just it's my opinion. I was never a fan of the Nismo body kit from the start. Like I said, too many fins, strakes, and grills. It's just not my cup of tea. But overall, for the Nismo and the Premium, there are things that I really like and some things I don't. I really like the front DRLs on the Premium version. It looks fantastic. I think they should do more of that. I do like the way they shaped the front bumper of the Premium version, which the opening kind of reminds me of the R34, and to go further, maybe an R34 with the C West kit, which I kind of have a fondness for obvious reasons. But when you break it down, the 2024 GTR is essentially a slight refreshing of the DBA GTR. What the DBA ran from 2012 to 2016. Which was a refreshing of the CBA GTR, which ran from 2008 to 2011. So this is what you expect, like the 240Z, the 260Z, and the 280Z. But while the 2024 is the most extensive refreshing of the GTR in its 16-year run, that's right, you heard that right. The R35 is now in the 16th year. The first R35, if you don't remember, was introduced in 2007 at the Tokyo Auto Salon. This is now 2023. That's 16 years. Do the math. That's a span longer than the R32, R33, and the R34 combined. If it was a person, it would be old enough to get his driver's license on its own. But I had my own impressions of the 2024, and I wanted to see how others felt. Again, subjective opinion. So I've spent the weekend surveying social media this past weekend, and as you can expect, opinions on the updates vary by wide margins. Some like parts of it and others dislike other parts of it, and that's kind of what I expected. But generally there's a little bit of hostility, and I shouldn't say that, maybe disappointment, that we still haven't seen any hint that Nissan is committed to an R36. And some believe that the R35 is so obsolete right now it's going to need a complete redesign, which the R36 would have to be, which would probably would be if they did one. But none is on the horizon as we can tell. Nissan is still not officially confirmed that there will ever be an R36 at all. And that's the part that's concerning a lot of people. Even if Nissan is working on an R36, they probably wouldn't announce it now anyway because they want to keep selling the R35s, especially the ones that they just announced last week. So we probably won't get a hint on that for some time, but there are rumors and so forth and everything. So you gotta have to figure it this way. Would anybody buy an R35 right now if a new 36 was just around the corner? I'm gonna say probably not. Unfortunately, there are people who keep posting homegrown R36 renderings, Photoshop things to social media claiming they're official renderings. This is the new 36, clickbait bullshit. They're not. All they're doing is confusing the public and pissing off people and spreading lies. If you're doing that, stop it. So is there going to be an R36? And on what kind of platform will it be built? Is it going to be a hybrid? Is it going to be full electric? Is it going to be a smaller engine with maybe dual electric motors in the front or something like that? We know a few things that give us hints. We know that emissions, fuel mileage, and crash safety regulations around the world keep getting more and more stringent. For example, Europe has mandated automatic braking to slow slow cars down in villages. The way it works is your car is driving along, there's a camera on your car and it sees a 35-mile-an-hour sign. It's going to slow your car to 35 miles per hour as you go through the village. And that is already being enacted. I think that comes in 2025. So that's one mandate. Cars in the future are going to have an alcohol interlock capability. Basically, it means that every car from the factory is going to have some kind of port or capability to install an alcohol interlock on the car so the car can't start or drive. So basically it works like get in the car and you have to blow into the car to make sure that you're not drunk. This is probably for people who have been convicted of drunk driving at some point. So that's going to be mandated for their car, and so all cars have to have some type of receptacle to do it. Think of like an OBD2 port, something like that. Crash standards are changing for cars. A-pillars are going to have to be redesigned and reinforced. Bumpers are going to have to be strong enough to survive a 25-mile-an-hour crash. They're talking about putting airbags on the outside of the car, on the hood of the car, so if a pedestrian gets hit, he gets airbags. What are we doing, people? We are building these cars for stupid people. But these mandates basically mean that every car is going to need to be some kind of, go through some redesigns, like especially including the GTR. Nissan wouldn't just skip Europe. It's a big enough market that it's important to them. Nissan certainly wants to sell GTRs in every country in order to maximize their profits. So any car that they produce must comply with regulations in their markets, and the GTR is going to be one of those cars. However, with annual GTR sales numbers dwindling, Nissan is likely looking to the future very cautiously. It's all about economics, which it should be. They have to build a car that, one, will be competitive against its rivals, Porsche turbos and other such cars. Two, the car needs to incorporate all the required safety equipment being mandated in the markets in which they intend to sell. Number three, it also needs to meet emissions regulations globally or in every market they're going to sell in. Emission standards in Europe get more and more stringent in 2025 with the new Euro 7 standard. And let us not forget that the sale of new gasoline cars in Europe is banned starting in 2035. No more gasoline engines in new cars. Period. End of sentence. So if you're Nissan contemplating whether or not you should be developing an R36 that can meet all of those requirements and mandates, what do you do? Do you create a hybrid R36 GTR using a smaller engine and add on a couple of electric motors? Just doing that would take tens of millions of development costs to develop that sort of system, and to do that for a car that has never sold more than 1,800 units in a year in the United States, only to have to throw it all away in 2035 when gasoline engines are banned. Do you spend that money on investment? I'm not sure that Nissan would invest in building a hybrid version as an interim measure, only to have to go through it all over again with another revamp to comply with the all-electric mandate that's coming in 2035. I don't know the numbers, but it doesn't look good. But then I remembered an article from 2019. I had to dig it out. Basically, it says, with the R36 model greenlit for production, that's news to me, Nissan is still undecided if it should invest in a brand new chassis that could accommodate a gas-electric powertrain or update the existing R35 platform, which is no slouch after more than a decade on sale in the US. And according to GTR legend Hiroshi Tamura, the latter is most likely. So basically he said they're just going to keep reskinning the car for a while. The reporter said, do you really want a hybrid for the GTR? 99% of our customers said, no thanks. Which kudos to them for paying attention to the fans. In my opinion, I don't think Nissan has committed one way or another yet. I think they're likely in testing options, things like, hybrid or basically full electric. And they're also probably looking at the trends in passenger vehicles because most people are buying SUVs now. Only a few people are buying these high-end cars, Porsche turbos, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, that kind of stuff. So if you're going to take a Nissan and trying to make it compete with those cars, you're looking at the Nismo platform. The GTRs or something else. They're like non-turbo kind of Porsche. Meanwhile, while Nissan carefully considers the options, many people who could afford a new R36 have already moved to other platforms, tired of waiting for word from Nissan as to their intent. Many of my personal friends in my own little group have moved on to other platforms, Porsches, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and even C8 Corvettes. So those customers are lost because there hasn't been enough development. So we shall see how it plays out. For me, like I said, the new GTR is going to be fantastic. There's a lot of things I like about the 2024 GTR. There's a few things I don't like, but I'm going to be honest with you. When I bought my 2015, it was after years of not liking the CBA, and when the DBA came out, it was a little more refined, and that was enough for me to pull the trigger. So would I pull the trigger on an R36? Probably not. I would have to see what it looks like. I would have to see the equipment. I would have to see the price. I would have to see the performance and all that kind of stuff. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.